Good morning once again, friends. How are you? It is 7:20 here on Tuesday, March 26, 2013. This is Good Morning Westchester on WVOX. Right here on the right side of your dial, 1460, where we bring you all the important voices in the land. And by doing that from right here, this is the power seat. This is Westchester County, the Golden Apple. This is where it all happens. And it's being live and local here that makes us so influential throughout the state. Indeed, that's how we get the national reputation that we have. And it's really cool to be a part of that, and I'm grateful that you chose to have us be a part of your morning. Thanks for letting us come in and help you navigate the first part of your day. Today, a day that's going to be mostly cloudy. A few sprinkles or a shower are possible. High's going to get not much out of the mid to upper 40s. So don't put the stuff in mothballs just yet. You got another couple of weeks of chilly. Although this Sunday should be Easter Sunday, you should get a little gift. About 53 degrees we're looking at for the rest of the Holy Week. Going to be chilly, but warming towards the weekend. Happy Pesach to all those who celebrate, and to all my Christian brethren. Looking forward to a blessed Easter Triduum. It is 7:21 and time to speak with the Majority Leader of the County Board of Legislators. Here's Pete Harckham. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well. All right. Well, I got the press release and saw the article today. The County Board of Legislators, the Democrats, once again firing a missive at the administration with concerns about HUD money, federal money, saying that the Astorino administration is bungling and misstepping, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Astorino administration says that they're handing everything in. It's just that HUD doesn't want to accept it. What say you?
Well, I think, first of all, the issue is the Board of Legislators, regardless of Democrats or Republicans, should have been told that HUD money was being withheld. We had to find that out from a reporter who got it through a Freedom of Information Act. We're the co-equal branch of government. When we passed the housing settlement, we also passed legislation that said nothing could be done on implementing the settlement without the involvement of the Board of Legislators, because the last administration had bungled things, and we didn't want to leave it to another administration to unilaterally do this.
Right.
So it's really a question of information flow and partnership and process. On the housing side, the county knows how to build housing very well. We built 3,000 units in 10 years. We're on track with the housing.
Right.
We're meeting all our benchmarks. The question is one of changing the culture in Westchester, and that goes to kind of the spirit of the settlement, and that's where the administration and HUD have had some pretty pronounced differences.
Right.
On the one hand, there are two things at stake. One, the settlement clearly calls for the county executive to promote what's called anti-source of income discrimination legislation. And we at the Board of Legislators worked for several years on a piece of legislation, and the administration, the county executive, vetoed that. So they took that very clearly that was not promoting it by vetoing it. The other, which is a bit of a gray area, is what's called the analysis of impediments, which actually is at the heart of the settlement. It goes back to the CDBG program and is a requirement of the CDBG program where you have to do an analysis of impediments. Now, the administration, it's very technical, has done reams and reams and reams of data, and apparently that has not been adequate for HUD. So, that one is certainly... So
where's the bungle? I'm wondering, where's the bungle, where's the misstep? If HUD isn't accepting information... I mean, first of all, there's two things here. A, why is it that I think it actually doesn't reflect well on the Board of Legislators, Democrat and Republican, that you guys had to find it out from a reporter. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's one thing that, the administration needs to be more forthcoming. But at the same time, where's your guys' due diligence in at some point saying, hey, what's up with the HUD requirements? That's one thing.
No. We have every 2 weeks, we have the administration down to give us an update on the housing settlement before the Committee of Government Operations.
Okay.
That's the opportunity. Or when it comes into them, all these things are transmitted electronically. Someone can very easily press forward on their email.
All right. Well, I'm going to look into that. I'm absolutely going to bring them on because that has to be answered for. That's sort of
because we are a partner in this, and unfortunately, that's not the first time that this has happened.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get them on. I'm going to absolutely get them on because there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for holding stuff back if it's not something that that's childish. Here's the second part of it, though. Again, where's the bungle? Where's the misstep? If they're providing information that HUD doesn't particularly like or want to accept, I don't see the bungle or misstep here.
Well, the misstep is that we are now on version 7, I believe, over the past 3 years. So there gets a point, when you hand in a homework paper and your professor marks it up with comments and says, please do it again and hand it back and address these issues.
Right.
And you don't address the issues for 6 times, there gets a point where the professor's going to question the integrity of the work and whether you really want to be in that class or not. And I think that's where HUD is at now.
Well, you said yourself that you've been building and building and building, and Ned McCormick, the Director of Communications for the administration, says the county would not be ahead of schedule in developing affordable housing in 31 eligible communities if the zoning in these communities was exclusionary. The impasse is over HUD's refusal to accept the county's well-documented conclusions. Consider who the professor is. It's the HUD. It's Obama's HUD.
Wait. This started under George Bush's Justice Department.
Great, but that's fabulous. But right now...
Let's not get to the partisan part of this. This is the professional arm of the Justice Department.
Well, all right, look, we've seen what the professional arm of the Justice Department has to think, what its track record has been over the last 5-6 years. There's been plenty of stuff that's been quite activist on their part. Let's not be silly here. But here's the thing, too. You talk about changing the culture. You live in a fabulous part, Lewisboro, Katona. When do you plan on moving into, say, downtown Mount Vernon to change the culture?
Well,
or would your neighborhood refuse someone from Mount Vernon who suddenly did nicely and was able to move up? Would they be refused a house in your neighborhood?
No, and I'll tell you 2 things. I come out of the affordable housing world. That's what I did before I was in the legislature.
Great.
And if you look at some of the studies that WRO has done, there are not barriers up in the communities that I represent. We've built affordable housing up here. Our issues are inordinately expensive land prices, the lack of infrastructure. There are no sewers or municipal water up here, and that's why I spend so much time working on septic issues that I do, because that's a unique challenge in the New York City watershed.
Well, but we're implying, but when we talk about changing the culture, the implications are obvious that that we have segregation, that we have a latent racism, that we have the powers that be keeping people out of places they don't want certain people. And you know what, really, let's be honest, really, people live where they can until they can live somewhere else. I would love to live in the house I grew up in White Plains, but I can't afford it. I have to live in another place up near us. I would love to live on the grounds of Westchester Country Club, but I don't. I can't. I don't walk around kicking and screaming that they won't let a guy in who doesn't make $30 million a year. Why do we waste our time with these silly notions about racism and segregation for political purposes?
Well,
Isn't there other stuff to concentrate on?
I don't know that it's for political purposes.
It absolutely is.
This goes back to the Fair Housing Act and the Civil Rights Act of the 60s.
Right.
But there's a statistical correlation when you look at things like the source of income legislation that we discussed earlier, and why that's a part, because statistically that is a barrier for people living in other communities, because if you've got landlords in 8/10 of the county refusing to take housing mobility vouchers or disability vouchers or veterans vouchers for housing, that's why you have a lot of low-income housing in Mount Vernon and in Yonkers. So that is a de facto form of racism. That
really so they're not they're not taking money from black veterans. They're not taking veteran vouchers from black veterans, but they are from white veterans. Where's the racism in that?
Well, when you look at things like Section 8 and other vouchers like that, there tends to be
there's real actual racism. There's real actual hateful racism, and and I think the power is taken out of the actual powerful, hurtful, ugly racism, the actual tangible racism, when it's bandied about in situations where it's not racism. Don't you get tired sometimes of hearing that? Don't you get? I mean, doesn't it? Don't you realize that I think it sensitizes people when they hear racism, or even de facto. Got to get in that word racism. It takes power away from the actual racism that exists.
But there is when somebody is told that they're not welcome in a particular apartment because of where they get their income from, as opposed to you or I, money is still money. And the fact that you're being told that you can live in one neighborhood in Mount Vernon and one neighborhood in Yonkers, and that's the only place you can live in Westchester, that's not fair in an open housing market.
But apparently, that's not the only place they can live in Westchester. They can live up in Katona-Lewisboro because of all the impact that's been made there, right? I mean, we've moved mountains there, right? So according to you, they can live anywhere they want in another part of the county, because it's we should bring them on up. And by the way, you want to look at something that's sort of dodgy. You should look into some of these supposed affordable housing that's supposed to be there for local workers, for this and that. When they build mixed use development properties and stuff, it's an absolute joke. Half of these developers who build these mixed use properties, the people who live upstairs are nowhere near who's supposed to be there. There's a lot to be looked into. But again, look, I'm just wondering. I'd love to see walking and talking. I'd love to see wealthy legislators, maybe relocate themselves instead of, maybe actually go and spread the culture around and move to Mount Vernon, move to the Bronx, I'm not gonna, but then again, I don't walk around claiming that there's a disparity in the culture. People live where they want to live. I would imagine if you went around with a clipboard and you asked half the people on a particular block in Mount Vernon, that this is where they ended up living. This is what it is. It's not based on racism. It's not based on a glass ceiling. This is America. They can do whatever they want. Instead of making excuses, let's get them going.
I spent many years working in affordable housing
and living in Katona,
and people do want to move to other areas, and the few that get those opportunities relish it the way you and I do. But right now, the fact remains that if you advertise on Craigslist to rent an apartment, you can, by law, say no programs, and that absolutely closes the door.
What's the track record, though? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I get where you're going. And by the way, I'm sorry. It was a little shot there when I took a shot at you about living in Katona. Forgive me for that, because I live 10 minutes away from you, and I take that back. I apologize.
Oh no,
I can't. I get self-righteous sometimes from my side of the aisle. But here's the thing: is that again, is there not a track record, though, sometimes when it comes to certain recipients of certain kinds of all colors all around the country? There is a track record, and if a landlord goes in and puts in tens of thousands of dollars to update and rehab a property, and they find themselves in this cycle, and you hear it from everybody. You worked in the affordable housing. You must have heard it as a constant refrain, Pete Harckham, from landlords pulling their hair out because they rented yet again to another Section 8. And I've got a dear friend, a listener of this show, who is a Section 8 recipient, but who treats his place like a palace and bleaches it every other day. But then you have the other side of the coin that is tragically, it seems, the majority side of the coin, where they just don't respect and they just don't treat well the stuff that they're given, and it happens over and over and over. We see stuff in Chicago and St. Louis and blah, blah, blah. It happens every time, does it not? Isn't there a track record there about certain recipients of certain sorts of subsidized deals here? Come on, I mean, you know that.
Well, there are bad tenants whether they're on subsidies or
agreed.
Subsidies.
Absolutely.
But we spent a lot of time discussing that with landlords, with the Section 8 folks. We had built in protections into the legislation. There are protections within Section 8 itself that if someone is destructive, that you know they can be forced to leave. So you know it really is about ending that overt barrier.
Peter Harckham, at the same time, you can also say no if somebody has a dog. You can also say no if somebody has small children. There are, you know, you can't, until a few years ago, you couldn't move into Heritage Hills if you were under 55. You know, I mean, there are rules, and landlords have their, you know, these are risk takers. These are people that have a lot invested, you know, and it just, you know, landlords should be able to pick and choose based on certain criteria.
We put in protections for the smaller mom and pop landlord because we took that into consideration as well. So you know, we spent a lot of time on this bill. Other states, other municipalities have passed bills like this, and you know that is one of the keys to what HUD is talking about in terms of changing the culture in Westchester.
Listen, you're really cool. I am gonna apologize for the shot. Didn't mean to do that. Well, I did, but I did it, and I didn't have a filter.
Yeah, you know.
Listen, Pete Harckham, you come on straight as an arrow every week, and you never politic here. You speak your mind, and I'm grateful for that. And look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great and happy Holy Week. Have a great rest of the holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. You too.
Thank you. Be well.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There goes Peter Harckham, and so terribly late behind. Here we go. Let me give you the traffic and weather and get this thing rolling here.